What's going on, everyone? Nick or Catalyst here. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to be ranking the maps in Battlefield 5, and you're probably saying, well, this video should have come out a long time ago, and you're right. So today we are going to make a quote-unquote updated version of the best maps in Battlefield 5. Although I never released an original list from, worst to best, we are going to do that today, and it's going to include all the new maps that have been released since the launch of the game. Of course, this isn't going to include Al Sundan. The map is not out yet, only God knows when that map is going to be released, but we are going to rank all 11 maps that are currently in the game from worst to best, and hopefully I'm going to be only able to give them about a minute of screen time. I'm only going to have a minute to share my opinions about each map, so this video isn't like a half an hour long. So we're going to be grading the maps on map flow, variety and gameplay, atmosphere, and overall visuals. And I know visuals don't necessarily make a great map, but it definitely has something to do with the atmosphere. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So starting off the list at number 11, also known as the worst map in the game at this point in time, and I don't foresee any map possibly taking the crown from Panzerstorm, it is Panzerstorm. Panzerstorm is by far and large the worst map in the game. The poll I released the other day had a lot of you agree with me that it is the worst map in the game, and the main problem with Panzerstorm, apart from the fact that it just kind of looks bland on a surface level, is the fact that it is just so unbearably boring to play. If you are not an infantry player and you are just roaming around the map in a tank, you're going to find tanks obviously, but once you die there's not really that much else to do, and the infantry players run between the C, D, and E flags, and they just run back and forth between those flags. And the thing is that tankers know that everybody's there, so they're going to go to those flags for kills, and it just becomes a tank orgy that's not fun to play. And God forbid you have to run halfway across the map to another flag just to have that map captured, or excuse me, that flag captured, and you have to run all the way back. It's just a snooze fest. I've hated playing it. I've always will probably hate playing it. It's something that I back out on most of the time if I'm not streaming. It's just a bore fest. It's number 11. It's the worst map in the game. Next on the list is probably a bit of a curveball for some of you that were expecting Hamada, but it's not Hamada, it is Twisted Steel. Twisted Steel suffers from a lot of the things that Panzerstorm suffers from. Basically, it's pretty boring to play if you're not playing on the B and the E flag, and that's really a fault in design by DICE's part, in my opinion. Everybody sees this gigantic bridge, it's a gigantic location, everybody wants to go to it. The problem is that when everybody is running back and forth between the B and the E flag, and everybody's staying there the entire game, it's that the rest of the map is extremely barren and nobody goes there. So you're basically bottlenecked into playing on the bridge, and that can be fun sometimes, but I'm not the type of player that just wants to stay in one location the entire game, even if I'm running between flags. Twisted Steel is very hard to traverse through, especially if you're trying to get to some of the outer flags. There's going to be campers in bushes, bipods, watching the marshlands, and basically it's bridge or bust, and that doesn't make a good map to me. Twisted Steel is at number 10. And here it is. Here's what everybody was expecting to see in the last spot. Some people consider this to be the second worst map in the game, if not the worst map in the game, around Panzerstorm. But I do think that that Hamada has a few more redeeming qualities as opposed to Twisted Steel. Hamada does have the advantage of having a very nice group of flags, the A, B, C, and D flags, and that's generally pretty good for infantry and tank play. And it plays pretty well depending on the type of players that you have, but that's a kind of a huge independent variable. What kind of players do you have? Do you have a lot of snipers in that specific server? Do you have a lot of MMG players, or is it pretty well balanced? If it's pretty well balanced, Hamada can actually be a little bit of fun, and it's a different playstyle, it's a different pace than a lot of the other maps in the game. But with that being said, I think the biggest negative of this map is the fact that the EFG and the ABCD flags, and I'm doing this all on the context of Conquest, by the way, if you haven't been able to figure out, it's that these flags are completely separated apart, and that bridge is such a hassle to cross that I feel like either everybody is over on one side, or it takes maybe a few squads to finally go over and capture the other flags, especially if it's a dominating server. So Hamada definitely has its problems, but it's not as boring as a lot of people say that it is, depending on the type of players that you get. And at the number 8 spot, we have Morita, the most recent map to be released into Battlefield 5 at this point. And I really wanted to like this map. It's a beautiful map, do not get me wrong, and I think it can be fun at times, but with that being said, I would like to make a note that I've only rage quit out of Battlefield 5 3 times in my 500 hours of playing this game, and all 3 times it has been on Morita, and this map has only been out for a week, and I think that should say something. This map can be extremely unbalanced if the teams aren't balanced, which oftentimes in Battlefield 5 they're not, and it's either a case of the German side pinning the Allies into the village, or it's the Allies pinning the German side down the mountain, and both of those situations are extremely hard to break out of, and I think that the map could be redesigned to make the flow a little bit better. Apart from that, I think this map lends itself to the worst parts of the meta. There are lots of bushes that people like to hide in. There are a lot of mounted machine guns that can hide in random windows and long, flanks and just shut it completely down. And this map can get very chaotic very quickly, and normally chaos can be good, but not in this case. I think it's a little bit too chaotic, and I think that people get very frustrated. I know that I get very frustrated. This map could have been a whole lot better, but I think the visuals took a big priority over actual gameplay, and that's why Morita is at number 8 on my list. And coming in at number 7, now we're getting into the mid-tier maps, the average maps in the game. Number 7 is Mercury, the other Greece-related map in Battlefield 5, and it's this high up on the list because it suffers from a lot of the problems that Morita does when it comes to balance, and that's all due to the C flag, which you can see me playing on right now. One team does get to the C flag faster than the other. I believe it's the Allied team, but regardless, the Allies get to the C flag faster, and that gives them high ground and positioning over the entire map, and generally it's the Allies that do win this map if the teams are evenly balanced. And the fact that the C flag is such a dominant part of the map, and basically you can set up snipers, MMGs, DMRs up on the top of the C flag and never lose control of it, but also dominate the rest of the map, that's not the best type of gameplay. But when that isn't happening and the teams are pretty well balanced, this map is a lot of fun, especially the inner parts of the town. It's beautiful to look at, it's beautiful to play in, and the others, apart from the C flag, this map is pretty well designed, and the atmosphere is also really nice. There's a lot of variety of gameplay on the map as well. DMRs, SMG, snipers, every class does have a place to shine. It's just the C flag is so dominant on this map, and it could really ruin some games when they aren't balanced. But that's why Mercury is at number 7. Number 6 is up next. And number 6 on the list is Narvik. A lot of you probably would have had this lower on the list, and by lower I mean worse on the list, but I think people really kind of underestimate how good this map is when it comes to one thing that a lot of other maps don't do well, and that is difference in verticality when it comes to gameplay. Narvik is pretty good at that. It doesn't really give one team an edge when it does come to the verticality of the map like Mercury does, like we just talked about, but apart from that, the visibility is obviously the biggest gripe when it does come to this map. The visibility is absolutely garbage. It's very difficult to see people, and it's especially easy to miss people when it comes to lying in trees or lying on top of the cliffs. But apart from that, I think that Narvik does something that a lot of the other maps in the game don't do, and that is, as I said, bring good verticality. There's a nice bridge section, there's a really enjoyable town section with the C and the E flags, and I think that on a good day, Narvik is probably one of the more enjoyable maps in the game. And next on the list is VeNoM, the other snow map in the game for Battlefield 5, linked to Narvik obviously. And one of the biggest gripes on this map is the planes. They get a huge advantage at the start of the round, and pilots can get 5 or 6 kills no matter what kind of skill they have just by flying to the enemy spawn and dropping a couple of bombs. And I'm not quite sure why DICE hasn't been able to fix that or delete that out or just remove the ability to do that, I suppose, but that's really annoying. Apart from that, the visibility is meh. This is also a map in which the visibility gets complained about, but furthermore, apart from that, I think that this map gives a lot of Argon Force vibes. At least it does for me, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It makes it a very unique map apart from the other maps in the game, and it does create a lot of nice give and take, kind of strategic, which kind of flank are they coming on type of gameplay that as I said earlier, is very unique, and I end up enjoying that. Sometimes it can get a little spawn trap heavy. It is very easy to spawn trap on this map, but that doesn't happen too much anymore. That's why not Narvik, but VeNoM is coming at number 5. And coming in at number 4, now we're getting into the good maps and the best maps of the game. Number 4 is Eris. And this is a map that is, again, extremely beautiful. It's got great atmosphere, but its major flaw, at least for me, is that apart from the E and the B flag, it kind of suffers from the same problem that Twisted Steel suffers from, but just not as severely. The B and the E flags are obviously the most popular flags on the entire map, and I really don't see anybody going to the A, the D, the F, and the C flags, and that really just makes it very, I guess, confined to those two middle flags, the B and the E. But when the action is there, it's probably some of the most fun action that you can have in the game, you know, through the town and the church, and there are a lot of different varieties of ways to play the map. You can play as a sniper, you can play as an SMG. Honestly, it's probably one of the best maps for SMGs in the entire game, but you can also play as an assault rifle. Great variety in gunplay. It's just the fact that the map can get pretty boring if, you know, two teams are really not bothering to go to the other flags on the outskirts of the map, but Eris is at a strong number 4. And coming in at number 3, the bronze medal spot in the list is Aerodrome. And for some reason, a lot of people that I know don't really like this map, but I tend to really enjoy it. I think it has, like Eris, one of the best gun varieties in the entire game. You can use pretty much whatever you want on this map. And I think one thing that it does exceptionally well, something that I can't say for a lot of the other maps, is that its featured landmark doesn't completely dominate and destroy the map. And, you know, obviously the hangar is a gigantic portion of this map, but you can pretty much win this map without touching foot on the C flag. Now, whether your team decides to agree with you on that, that's a different story, but I think Aerodrome can be a lot of fun to play on. Definitely one of the biggest parts of this map that I don't enjoy is the sun. God damn, that thing is bright. I think you need, you know, DICE's DLC sunglasses to even be able to see on this map sometimes. But apart from that, you know, tanks are really nice on this map. It's got a nice, you know, tank infantry kind of gameplay to it, and it's got some great variety and great atmosphere and a landmark that doesn't completely destroy the map. So that's all good in my book. Aerodrome is number 3. And coming in at number 2 is Devastation. This used to be my favorite map in the game, but for whatever reason, and I honestly don't know what that reason is, it's kind of waned on me a little bit. I think it's because I played it so much because it was the best map in the game, but there are a lot of things that Devastation does right. Just like Aerodrome, its main landmark, the Cathedral, is very well balanced, and you don't need to have that flag in order to win the game. So map flow is probably the best in the entire game on Devastation. I think it's really fun to play through. It's definitely got that destroyed, ruined atmosphere, obviously, as you can see by the gameplay, and obviously if you played it, it's got a great atmosphere. The only thing that can be kind of troublesome is that the visibility is kind of sparse at times. You know, there were a lot of dark corners, especially at the beginning of launch, that people hid in, and it's still kind of that way. It's very easy to miss people, but apart from that, I think the gameplay is the best on this map in terms of flow, and it definitely has a lot of things going for it when the game is going at full speed, and it's extremely enjoyable for me, but there is one map that is better. And that map is the undestroyed version of the map that we just talked about, Rotterdam. Rotterdam was one of those maps that I thought was going to be kind of booty just based on the concept art and the trailer that we got for it, but I'm so happy that I was wrong because this map is absolutely amazing in so many areas, and I think the only area that it does lack is atmosphere. Sometimes you can kind of not really feel like you're actually in a battle, but most of the time it's really enjoyable to play. The colors are nice, not the atmosphere, the visuals are all very stunning. It's in a very nice location, and the flow is extremely good. It's not the best. Devastation has the best flow in the game, at least on Conquest in my opinion, but Rotterdam is definitely second on that. And it really is, I think it just shines in the size of the map. It's perfectly sized in my opinion. The DICE has used the tanks on this map pretty perfectly as well. And I just get the feeling, like a great feeling whenever I play this map. It's just so much fun to run in and around the buildings and across the rivers and over the trains, and I think it's really just well designed, and I can't say enough and praise it enough, you know, without repeating myself, but it really just is a fun map to play. And, you know, you can play pretty much whatever you want on this map. You know, you can play SMG, you can play AR, and you won't get penalized for it. So this is the best map in the game, in my opinion. And that's the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. The maps of Battlefield 5 ranked from worst to best, in my opinion. I would really be interested to see what you disagree and agree with me on. Do you agree with my list? Make a list of your own. Really interested in hearing that. Of course, I would love it if you could drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribing if you're new, turning on post notifications if you haven't already, also following my social media, my Twitter, and joining my Discord if you want to as well. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Nick, or Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.
I remember myself, my name. Forgot about all you tried to change.